homework number 3, where we're doing more of a toning series. We did the previous 2 homeworks were about toning the psoas muscle, and today we're going to work on toning the pelvic floor and the glutes, which are the other 2 stabilizing muscles for our pelvis. And remember, if we have a nice, strong, toned pelvis and all those helpful muscles that stabilize it, we have a lot less opportunity to throw any of the pelvis out of whack, out of alignment. So that's what we're going to be working on today, is pelvic floor and glute muscles. All you're going to need is a block or rolled up, nicely, tightly rolled towel. I usually put an elastic band around that towel to keep it from slipping. So you'll meet me in a mountain pose, which is standing up nice and tall. And we're going to take this block or your rolled up towel, and I want you to put it between your legs, right between your thighs. And once you've done that, bring your big toes and your heels together to touch. All right. The block might cause a little discomfort. That's okay. We can breathe through it. And when we're here, I want you to squeeze the block and figure out which leg is doing a little bit more of the squeezing. You might feel it in the butt cheek a little bit. And we all have one over the other typically. Mine's my right. So I'm going to concentrate on squeezing a little bit harder with my left side. All right. From here, take your hands into prayer at heart center. Your thumbs are on the sternum. Push the toes and heels together. All right. And now it's a very small movement, but I want you to feel the inner groins, the inside of your legs, pushing the block towards the back wall. Okay? Inhale the belly out, and then exhale, draw the belly up, making the spine nice and long. And then drop your tailbone towards the floor. So there's a lot happening here. Hold right here. Your pelvic floor and your glute muscles are both firing while you're doing these actions. All right? Don't lock the knees if you can avoid it. So we're pulling back. Good. And we're breathing, making length, dropping the tail. On an inhale, bring the arms up overhead. Exhale, fold forward, squeezing that block. Your hands may or may not come down to the floor. And if they don't, you can bend your knees a little bit until they do. Now, your tendency is going to have your weight to shift back into the hips. I want you to bring the weight forward, and just as your heels become light, lift the toes and press the heels into the ground. Drop the head, let the neck just hang. Continue to pull that brick backwards without sending the hips backwards. We're really getting into that pelvic floor, really getting into the subtle muscles of the glutes. Breathe here. Inhale, fill the belly up. Exhale, draw the belly up into the ribs. Soften the back of your neck. Really just let that head hang. Let's stay here for another minute. You can do this. Your legs might start to shake as you squeeze the block. As you pull the block backwards and root your heels down. That's okay. Don't forget to breathe. Nice, strong muscles create strong, healthy hips. On your next inhale, I want you to slowly roll your spine up to standing. Get nice balance with those big toes and the heels. The arms kind of just hang as we come one vertebrae at a time up to standing. Good. You can release the block, step hip width apart, and shake the knees out a little bit, feeling the hips. I sometimes make some hip circles if you want to. All right, now we're going to take a wide-legged forward fold. And I get the question often, well, I don't know how wide to make my legs. Are they too wide? Are they not wide enough? The rule of thumb for spreading our legs wide is that if we hold our hands out kind of like a star, our feet should be kind of underneath our hands, our wrists, basically. That's a pretty good width for me, all right? You can take your hands to your waist, turn your toes in slightly. And if this isn't natural for you, like it is for me, just do the best you can, all right? From here, we want to tuck the tailbone down towards the ground. So we don't want the butt out. We want the tail pulling down towards the ground, down. And then we're going to think about a crisscross pattern between our inner groin and the right hip, inner left groin, inner right groin and the left hip. And those two magical lines are pulling, and all of a sudden you'll feel those glute muscles turn on. All right, are you with me? Keeping your hands on your hips, we're going to lean forward, fold forward with the pelvis. All right, so nice and slow, keeping that crisscross pattern. Fold into a half back. So the back is flat and parallel to the ground. Make sure that when you're folding, you're doing it nice and slow so that the pelvis 3 and 9 o'clock on the face stay even. Good. Now take your hands down to the floor. If they don't quite reach, take a micro bend in the knees. From here, you want to shift your weight forward. Okay, so walk your hands out a little bit. Raise the toes and sink the heels. Lift up through the back of the knees. Feel the glutes turn on as you do that. Find your crisscross pattern as you root the heels. And drop the head. Don't lose the crisscross pattern in the pelvis. Lifting up through the backs of the knees, rooting the heels down. Hold here. Three more breaths. On your inhale, push your hands into the ground, grow the back parallel to the ground, walk your hands back towards you, and they're close enough where you feel stable enough to root down through the heels and take your hands to your hips, and then slowly roll up to standing, keeping that tailbone tucked down. All right, so for the last thing we're going to do today, we're going to do chair pose. And we're going to do it up against a wall. And it's best, if you've ever done chair pose in a yoga practice, it can be challenging, especially if you have really tight hips or pain in your hips. This is the best way to get to a point where you're able to do chair pose in a yoga practice nice and fluidly. We're going to need a block. So we're going to stand with our feet hip width apart, leaning against a wall. I'm just going to kind of walk my feet out a little bit and stick the block between my knees. I'm going to find steady here, and I'm going to squeeze the block. I tend to squeeze more with the right leg, so I'm going to squeeze a little bit more with the left. And then I'm going to slide down a little bit so that my knees are bent, really squeezing. On an inhale, I'm going to grow the spine long. Exhale, I'm going to tip my tail in so that the lower part of my back is against the wall. And then on my next inhale, I'm going to bring my arms up overhead. Now, I'm going to slide over because I've got an eave here. You might not be able to bring them all the way up against the wall without arching your back out, which is going to be the case for most everybody. I want you to keep this low back against the wall. So just bringing them out to the ears is fine. And holding here. Dropping the tailbone down towards the floor, squeeze the block. We're going to stay here for a minute, so hold with me. Inhale the belly out. Exhale, pull the belly up into the ribs. Continue that pattern. You're doing a good job. 20 more seconds. Pull that pelvic floor up on every exhale. On your next exhale, bring the arms down to the wall. Push your hands against the wall to push yourself up and away. Remove the block. That's tough stuff. Good job today, you guys.